Good morning. My name is Sherry Phelps and I'm a quilter here on Long Island. I'd like to show you some of the work that I've done so far. My primary focus is on lap or crib size quilts, although I can do larger ones. These are some examples of the work that I have done. You can tell that I love color. Color is my favorite. Can't go wrong with color. That just hollers baby. Of course, you can't leave out the little girls. Pink and green.
Absolutely beautiful.
Looks like summertime to me.
And you have completely different pattern on it.
I have a very different pattern. This is called flying geese. Pretty traditional. These are little windmills or pinwheels with just a lot of color. I like working in contrasting colors as well. Black and red, white. Wow.
And also completely different pattern.
Yes. And I tried my hand at some batik with a log cabin pattern, and I thought it turned out quite nice.
Oh, it's stunning. And the yellow in it, it's just fantastic.
You never know sometimes what colors will go together until you put them. And that's one of the reasons why when I get ready to go shopping, my primary focus is on fabrics that I love. And when I see fabrics that are appealing to me, I go from there and then I come home and work from my own stash. I found these two fabrics together, the flowers and the polka dots. The little red and yellow and green just made me smile. I found these three and this, and I came home and put these from my own stash, as they call it, in the trade. It's your leftover fabrics or fabrics you found that you just love and can't live without. And that's what happens to quilters, is they end up with a rather large stash of beautiful fabrics that they love.
Wow.
I try to keep mine sort of color coordinated so that I can go to them easily.
And they're all cotton.
And they're all cotton. I love working in cotton, mostly because it's just the nature of quilting to use cotton, and cotton is a beautiful fabric. It will last forever, and it is a very pleasing, warm texture. Oh, there's nothing that you can't love about cotton. Oh my goodness. It's the best. So, now I've selected my fabrics. I don't necessarily have a pattern in mind when I start out, but I like to live with my fabrics for a little while. So I hang them up like this or put them on my chair in the living room, and I find that sometimes when I look at a fabric long enough, color combinations together, a pattern will come to me, and I'll think, this would be cute with such and so, however it turns out. That's where I go from there. Quilting has come a long way since my grandmother quilted. She cut all of her pieces with scissors. She sewed all of her pieces by hand, and then she and her sisters and sister-in-laws and neighbors would get together and quilt together. A treasure. I still have some of her quilts that are treasures to me, that she made when she was a very young woman during the Depression, and her color schemes were dictated by her economic status. My color schemes are only dictated by my eye, and I find that very fortunate because I have a huge palette, whereas she had to make do with what she had. But that's where I got my love of quilting, and today the tools for quilting they're fantastic. There are rotary cutters that are ergonomically engineered correctly. There are forgiving cutting mats. There are rulers that are accurate. Quilting is a very technical it's a technical thing only if you make it technical, because all you're doing is cutting straight lines and sewing them together. Well, So now that we have sewing them together, once I do decide on a pattern, which could be my own or could be someone else's, I need to put my color scheme together so that I know whether I like it or not. And plus I like to color. So I take graph paper and I make a drawing of the quilt I want to make. This is one that I have a plan for. I have the center of the quilt hanging on my design wall over here. This is just a piece of cotton batting that I've hung up on the wall. All you have to do is lay your fabric on it and it stays right there. It's a clingy thing. And the reason I have this up here is because I haven't really decided precisely the kind of border that I want to put on it. So I'm going to live with it a little while until something feels right. Or I have an opportunity to mess around with a few more colors for a border. Maybe I'll make this a little bigger. Maybe I'll put some, who knows what I'll put in there. I haven't decided yet. But this is the fun part of putting it together, because these are things that make a quilt uniquely singular in their design. Regardless if someone else used a pattern just like this, their fabric choice would be different than mine, and their placement of their colors would be different than mine. So every quilt is unique that comes from a singular quilter.
What's your current inclination for the color? What's your, at the moment, what?
I'm thinking I want to put this red and this blue maybe, or this blue. I like this blue a lot, but I'm not sure I like it with this red. But I definitely like this red, or this red and this blue together. So who knows?
Okay.
I may go with yellow instead.
Oh.
I haven't decided.
Great. Okay, how do you make it happen?
Well, once you cut it, well, first of all, you have to prepare your fabric. That's a very pleasant thing for me. I enjoy the texture of fabric. I like the way it feels. I like the way you can move it and it falls and it lays well if it's well-made fabric. Once you prepare your fabric and cut it, then you get to start sewing, which I use my trusty Singer sewing machine. This is only the second one I've ever owned. The first one I owned for 40 years and literally wore it out. So you sew and put them together, and then this particular area is just one block. So then I lay it out on my design wall to make sure that I don't have colors abutting each other, so that I have variety in my placement. And I change it a lot, because I find that if I do, I very often come up with a better scheme than I started out with. So trial and error is very important for me, and I don't rush it. I let it happen, and if it takes 4 weeks, it takes 4 weeks. Sometimes it doesn't take that long. Sometimes it does. This one I think I love this one so much that I'm going to take a few more days to decide about what to do with it. So once I have the border included and have it sewn together, then I'll make sure that it's all ironed well and that my seams are lying down appropriately. And then I load it onto my long arm quilting machine, which is located right here. My studio really used to be my bedroom, but now it's my studio. But loading a long arm quilting machine quilt happens with muslin for a backing, 100% cotton batting, which is, I prefer the unbleached. And then you put your quilt on, and it's a matter of aligning everything, making sure that it's square, and turning the machine on and following a pentagram on the other side of the machine for an overall quilting pattern. I personally, because I choose to do a lot of children's quilts, I like flowers and swirls and Well, I just find them pleasing. So I have one that's called popcorn, which I do for little boy type themes, but I do like those swirls and those hearts that go along with it. You're going to